Alright, here we go with the two palms painting. So I will show you my palette first and hope you can see everything. This is my first attempt at this, so bear with me. I'm not really using a whole lot of color. I'm using, white, kind of an orange, yellow, bright yellow. This is like a diazonine purple. This is cobalt blue, and this is permanent rose and black because I'm doing kind of a night scene. Um, you have the painting, so I'm going to model it on that painting. It's a much smaller canvas, but it will be approached pretty much the same way. So the first thing that I will do, um, I gotta have music, so bear with me for a minute. The first thing that I will do will be decide where my moon's going to go and begin to paint the clouds in the sky, define the horizon line, and get that all pretty well set with the water. And then I'll lay my palm trees in where I want them, probably after it dries. So this will take one or two takes. The way I like to start is with a bigger brush. So I pretty much just use flat. Every once in a while, I'll pick up a round or a small round if I'm doing really minute detail, but I don't really do that much detail with small brushes, which is just my preference. So you can use whatever brush is your preference. The approach would still be the same. I like to make sure the brush is pretty good and wet, and sometimes I'll even put some water on the canvas itself, so it helps me spread that paint around. Let's see what I feel like listening to. So the main background was pretty dark, because it is a night scene, but it's a supermoon night. So that means that what we really need is a dark sky that shows ambient light from that supermoon because it was very bright. I'm sure you've seen lots of really bright nights, and that's kind of what we're going to mimic here. So it's not going to be complete black, but the corners are going to be pretty dark. So I'm going to lay some black into the corners, like right away, because that's what I want. There was some cloud cover that night, and without cleaning my brush too much, I'm going to go grab some purple and just start patting it into the black that I put in my mix area, and then I'm just going to start going right back into that black again. This is pretty much the way that I do everything. If I want to throw some lighter colors in there, then I'll just grab the lighter color and mix it right away. Let's put our moon right here, and it's going to be kind of a grayish moon. The idea is just to get the color on the canvas at this point. It's not to try and make it perfect or fix it or do anything special with it. Mainly just to cover up the white. That's really all I want to do. I'll come back over that moon several times. I believe the picture that I gave you, I probably used some Hooker's green or permanent green. And today I really want more of a blue approach. So I'm gonna use blues more and purples. And then that night sky, the way that moon illuminates is just with a little wash of white. I'm just going to wash the white into the sky, the clouds. And as that horizon line goes away, it will get darker. And as it comes forward, it'll get a little bit lighter. This is what I'm talking about mixing on the canvas. So I just take a color that I want, And I don't fuss with it too much. I just lay it in on the canvas. There's no telling what this is going to turn out like. It will be completely different than the other one I did. But that's all I want to establish my horizon line. I'll just I'll decide how much water, how much ocean I want to show versus sky. Maybe it's right there. You can just pick it however you want. You can have more sky than water. You can have more water than sky. The water will be blue, of course, but it's also going to reflect a lot of what you see in the sky. So keep that in mind as you're putting it in here. I'm doing most of this just from memory. And again, my goal is really to lay in color, get this canvas covered with color. Even though I use acrylics, I still take a very much layer approach to it. I've always found water to be a little bit darker than the sky, even though it reflects the same colors that you're going to have in your sky. It just seems to be a little darker to me. You just lay it in there, whatever color you like. It can be green, it can be blue, it can be yellow, and it can be any color you want. Just lay that water in there. We're going to build waves and stuff like that in a little bit. So, because this is kind of a night sky, the water had kind of a greenish cast to it to me. I'm going to lay some yellow in there. And anytime I need to darken something up, I go back in with black. I prefer black. A lot of people will use blue and red mix or red and green mix. Basically what you want to do is take complementary colors. They tend to darken whatever the color is you're going up against them. And as you know, I prefer to paint my sides. So that's just kind of what I'm doing now. Kind of painting the sides a little bit. But you don't want to fuss with it too much. You just want to let the painting kind of take on a life of its own. There is really no right or wrong in my book when you're painting. There's expectation by the artist. There's expectation by the viewer sometimes, but there's really nothing else. I mean, there's no right or wrong way to do this. This is whatever you feel like putting in there is what you put in there. And the great thing about acrylic is if you don't like it, you can come back over it. This is where my moonshine's going to be, somewhere right here. I don't like to go completely in the middle. I like to try to get off to the side just a little bit. Um, that's something that I learned in school. Apparently, being in the middle is bad. And all this really is doing is just giving me some references right now for where my where my moon's going to be doing its reflections. That's really all it's for. Because I'm gonna have to go back over this to really make some strong contrast. I'm gonna have to go back over this once it dries. But you just mix it up here and there, throw a little something in, take a little something out. That's all there is to it. It's really technique, brush strokes. And this is pretty much easy. Anybody can do this. Occasionally, I'll mix a couple colors on my palette, but I try not to mix them too much on the palette because I want them to mix on the canvas. And all I'm trying to do right now is establish a little darker tone here and there in the water. Maybe there's a cloud right here or something. The way the moon reflects off clouds is generally the darker the sky, the more cloudless it is, or the clearer it is. And the lighter the sky is where the clouds are reflecting off of the moon. Even within some clouds, there's going to be some areas that are darker than others, and that's kind of what I'm suggesting now. I try to suggest in my painting more than be absolute. Occasionally, I need to be absolute, but mostly I like to just kind of suggest. Well, I don't have to be so precise to the painting, you know. That can drive you crazy if you're trying to be perfect. To me, painting is very not perfect. It's if you want perfection, get a camera. You know, I'm sure you've heard that before. I really like to emphasize it. If you want that perfection, what cameras are for. Now, that said, there are people who can really paint like a camera. I mean, they can lay that stuff in there like nobody's business, just like the camera did it. And you know that is incredible to me. But it's not what I do. I admire it, but it's not what I'm striving for in my paintings. I'm striving for something that is suggestive and pleasing to the eye. But as you can see with my sky, there's really just no rules. And I'm just laying whatever color I feel like laying in. Um, the palm trees will tie it in later. I just want kind of a smooth. I can go back over stuff and put more stuff in, take it out, put it in, take it out, put it in, take it out. I'll do that several times. Right now, I'm just kind of establishing where I want the moon at. And I think I want it right here. Now, I can try to make that perfectly round and leave it as a absolute, or I can get a paper towel and get most of this paint off my brush, but leave that same color on it and just kind of go around it like this. Break that up so it looks like it's kind of hiding under a cloud. So I make a halo effect around where that moon may be later. I may come back in there and make that moon a little harder and just kind of lighten up the sky like it's foggy and cloudy. And sometimes I need a little water on the brush because I get a little bit dry out. You know, water's your friend in acrylics. It's your medium, so don't be afraid to use it. For me, there's no right, wrong, or indifferent. You do whatever you want. You are the creator. Maybe it's kind of a stormy sky. We just had a lot of stormy weather here, stormy skies and stuff. I'm kind of in the stormy sky mode. Let's see here. Let's get some gray in it. Sky. All I'm doing really is just grabbing white and blending it in. And seriously, that's all I'm. That's what I'm talking about mixing on the canvas. Sometimes it's a little harsh to mix that way on the canvas, and you might want to soften it up with a color that's there. Or let's say I go in here and I do something like that. And I don't like it. It's not what I wanted. Sometimes I'll just take my finger and blend it away. I especially do that a lot when I'm oil painting. I want more of a glow right in this area. Get the glow that I want. So I'm just trying to lay in more white. And if you've ever really studied the moon at night, especially those super moons, they just seem to wash the sky with way more white than you think. You know the sky's dark. You know it's supposed to be blue, and there's no light shining on it, so it's really really dark. Sometimes when I see the moon, it just looks like it's a fog of white, much much lighter than you think it should be. All right, well that's getting there. I know this is gonna sound crazy, but I want more white in here. Now what I'm doing now is kind of establishing some clouds that are off in the distance, away from the actual moon, and just kind of giving the sky that stormy effect. I think I want a little bit more purple in here because I really like purple. Purple will establish more of a shadow. The hard part to me in painting is you get something that you like in the sky, and then you end up covering it up with your foreground because we still have to put some palm trees in here. May switch brushes now. Uh, Go with the thinner, flatter brush. It says it's a number 12, I think. And I don't have my glasses on, but I want to grab a little bit more white, and it's not going to come out white. It's going to come out more of a really light gray. But I'm still just want to establish an area that my moon's going to just kind of hang in. But I want it to be a soft glow. I don't want it to be harsh yet. little darker. My gray is getting too light. I want the sides to match your front, so always keep those sides going as you paint. That's one of my problems. I forget sometimes. All right, I'm liking that a little bit. More. Just kind of smooth it in. That's the thing I love about skies and clouds. There are just no rules at all. You get to do whatever you want. What I'm doing now is I'm grabbing a little bit of that orange and I'm throwing some white on it. You see by my palette, I do pre-mix a little bit on the palette, but the main thing is put it right here in the sky. Get a little Van Gogh if you want. For me, this color just really pops against the darkness of the sky and the purple that I put down because it is kind of a complementary purple, complementary color. And if I don't like it, if I get a little bit too light, I can always come back in with some dark. This guy breaking back in through there. Now the paint's getting a little grabby, so that means I need a little bit more water on it. And that's going to really change the painting, the way it's going to look. Because right now, there's kind of a lot of contrast with that fresher paint against the more worked paint. And it's going to kind of break down some of the things that I might have started liking into the painting. But I'm going to leave some of it. I'm going to slightly brush over other parts of it. I just want a real layered look. Right here, I'm going to reestablish my horizon again. I'm just doing this with purple right now. I'm going to darken the purple a little bit with some black because it needs a little help. It's supposed to be way, way off in the distance at night. The more dark we can get, the more light we can show. I'm just going to start bringing that darkness in, breaking it up on the sides. Getting a little bit darker here because we're further away from light source. Seriously, I can be done with this painting in about 20 more minutes. They were already starting to establish it a little bit. And when I was in Belize, the place we stayed had a barrier reef to it, and the barrier reef was way, way out there, about 100, 150 yards, and that's where the break of the waves were. So I'm gonna come in here and just get a little breaking of a wave. Here's where it would shine a little bit more with the moonlight on it. And all I'm doing is just kind of going along and pulling a little bit. I'm loading the brush up with a lot of white because right now I'm into the wet. And I just want to give it a little line. You know, just kind of to suggest the break. And I'll reinforce this to. This will look a lot better whenever it dries, and we can go over it with more of the dry brush. It won't blend. It'll set up on top a lot better. But that's where I'm at right now. Now I still need to do my moon, of course, but I'm just kind of establishing how big I want my moon and what do I want to happen out there with my moon. I think it needs to be a really bright moon, which means I'm going to have to wait for the sky to dry because right now it's a little too wet. And I have the wrong brush. I need a round brush. This is a point where I would need a round brush. I think I'm going to stop and let it dry, and then we'll start up again. Maybe get a little better framing next time.